the greatest works in the Bible that astonish scientists. Welcome to the latest issue of Top Secret. Have you ever wondered about ancient works so great that they challenge all limits of human intellect, leaving scientists stunned and hearts moved? In the Bible, wonders like Noah's giant ark, the impregnable wall of Jericho, or Solomon's radiant golden temple are not just architecture, but intense mysteries, containing supernatural power and secrets never fully decoded. Get ready to be swept into an astonishing journey where faith, history, and miracles converge. Noah's Ark of Salvation. Imagine an ancient world where modern machinery didn't exist, no giant cranes, no sharp electric saws. Only calloused hands, rough wooden logs, and a fierce belief in God's word. That was the era of Noah, an ordinary man chosen to carry out an extraordinary mission. In a world drowning in sin and chaos, God entrusted him with the task of building a giant ark, a shelter to save his family and representatives of every animal species from the great flood about to engulf the entire earth. This task not only required strength, but also tested a person's patience and faith in the face of what seemed impossible. Noah's Ark was not a simple boat. According to the description in Genesis, it was enormous, about 137 meters long, 23 meters wide, and 14 meters high. Try to visualize, that's equivalent in size to a large modern cargo ship. But built entirely from gopher wood, a mysterious timber whose origin scholars still debate. The entire ark was coated with a layer of pitch for waterproofing, ensuring it could face fierce waves. How could a man like Noah, without modern tools, complete such a colossal structure? He had to personally cut down each tree, saw it into planks, design complex compartments to house thousands of animal species from the tiniest to the gigantic. Moreover, he had to organize the space so all could survive for months at sea. This work required not just skill, but was a journey spanning decades. Under the scorching sun, amid mockery and skeptical glances from those around, Noah remained steadfast. He worked tirelessly, despite isolation and the pressure of bearing the responsibility to save life on Earth. Each hammer blow, each plank placed in position, was a testament to his unshakable faith. The story of the ark is not just an engineering marvel, but a living symbol of obedience and absolute trust in God's will. Is this story true? That's a question scientists have tried to answer for centuries. Geological studies show that thousands of years ago, a major flood event may have occurred in the Mesopotamia region, flooding vast lands. This event could be the origin for flood stories recorded in many ancient cultures, not just in the Bible. Additionally, reports of traces of the Ark on Mount Ararat in Turkey further fuel curiosity. In 1959, a Turkish pilot discovered a strange structure, shaped like a ship's hull, while flying over the area. Subsequent expeditions found fossilized wood fragments and geological structures possibly related to a large ship. Although science cannot yet provide a definitive conclusion, these findings make it impossible to completely dismiss the biblical story. For people of faith, Noah's Ark is not just a wooden structure. It is living proof of God's power, the strength of belief and obedience. This story challenges us to reflect on the meaning of faith in the toughest moments when everything seems impossible. It reminds us that, with faith, even impossible tasks can become reality. The Wall of Jericho and the Power of Sound. Imagine standing before an ancient city, surrounded by massive stone walls, so dense they seem impenetrable by any force. That is Jericho, one of humanity's oldest cities, witnessing one of the most miraculous events recorded in the Bible. According to the book of Joshua, the people of Israel, after 40 years of wandering in the desert, faced the challenge of conquering Jericho, an impregnable fortress. However, instead of using sharp weapons or war machines, they received a strange command from God. That command required them to march around the city in absolute silence, once a day, continuously for 6 days. On the 7th day, they had to march around 7 times, blow trumpets loudly, and shout in unison with all their might. The 7th day came, after 7 laps around the towering walls, the trumpets blared, blending with the united shout of all the people. The unbelievable happened. The sturdy walls of Jericho, seemingly undefeatable, suddenly collapsed completely. No bombs, no machinery, only sound and intense faith created the miracle. How could such an event occur? Did the sound from the trumpets and shouts truly have the power to destroy such a solid structure? This question has kept the world, from scientists to believers, constantly pondering and seeking answers. In the 20th century, archaeologists came to Jericho hoping to unravel the mystery of this story. In the 1950s, British archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon led a meticulous excavation in the area. What she discovered was truly astonishing. The remains of a great wall were found, with signs indicating it had collapsed suddenly and unusually. What amazed scientists the most was how this wall collapsed. Instead of falling inward from the outside, as is common in military attacks, the debris suggested the wall seemed to be destroyed from the inside out. This phenomenon completely defies conventional logic, yet strangely aligns with the biblical story, where the wall was not brought down by human strength but by a supernatural force beyond understanding. Some scientists proposed that an earthquake was behind this collapse. The land of Jericho lies on a geological fault line, where earthquakes occur quite frequently. This hypothesis sounds plausible, but it leads to a larger, more challenging question. How could the Israelites know the exact timing of an earthquake? And why did that earthquake occur precisely at the moment the trumpets sounded and their collective shout reached its peak? This coincidence is nearly impossible, leading many to believe that the fall of Jericho was not just a natural phenomenon, but a miracle, where science and faith intertwined in a wondrous moment. The story of Jericho is not just a military victory recorded in history. It is a profound lesson in obedience and absolute faith in God's will. No matter how fortified, walls cannot withstand His power. For those who listen to this story, Jericho is a powerful reminder that the greatest obstacles in life, no matter how insurmountable they seem, can sometimes be overcome in the most unexpected and miraculous. It inspires hope that, with faith, all limits can be broken. Solomon's Temple and the splendor of the Holy Sanctuary. Among the structures recorded in the Bible, none can rival King Solomon's temple in splendor and deep spiritual significance. This was not only an architectural marvel but also a place built to house the divine presence of God. Located on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, this temple was the pinnacle of art and engineering in ancient times. At the same time, it became an eternal symbol of the close bond between humanity and the Creator, a place where the divine and earthly realms merged. The story of the temple begins with King David, a passionate king who yearned to build a worthy place of worship for God. However, God chose his son, Solomon, a king renowned for his exceptional wisdom, to carry out this great mission. The construction lasted 7 years, using the most precious materials available at that time. Massive stones were cut with absolute precision in distant quarries, then transported to the site and fitted together without making any noise. The silence during this construction was an engineering feat that still leaves modern archaeologists in awe and seeking explanations. Cedar wood from Lebanon, a precious wood symbolizing nobility and durability, was brought in to create the sacred space. These logs were not only sturdy but also emitted a sweet fragrance, enhancing the temple's sanctity. Every detail of the work was executed with care and reverence, as if the craftsmen were working directly under God's gaze. What made Solomon's temple unique was its interior opulence. The entire interior was covered in a layer of gleaming gold, from the towering walls to the vast floor. Light shining and reflected brilliantly, creating a scene like a starry sky in the midst of the earthly realm. Intricate carvings of angels, palm trees, and foliage decorated everywhere, offering a surreal space where humans felt they were entering heaven. At the center of the temple was the Holy of Holies, the most sacred area, where the art was kept. The day of the temple's dedication was an event deeply etched in the minds of the Israelite people. King Solomon gathered the entire nation, stood before the altar, and offered a sincere prayer, asking God to accept this temple as his dwelling place. Suddenly, a thick cloud of glory enveloped the entire space, signifying God's presence. Immediately after, fire descended from heaven, consuming the offerings on the altar before the eyes of thousands. The people knelt, filled with awe and reverence, clearly sensing the sanctity of that moment. However, that magnificent temple did not last forever. Centuries later, it was destroyed by the Babylonian army, leaving the Jewish people with irreparable pain and loss. This temple lives on through time, as a reminder of God. The mystery surrounding its construction methods, the origins of its precious materials, and its deep spiritual significance continue to drive archaeologists and theologians to search and explore. The Tower of Babel and human ambition. Imagine an ancient world where all humanity shared a single language with no barriers, no misunderstandings. In that absolute unity, these people conceived a bold idea: to build a great structure, a towering spire piercing the sky. Their goal was not only to reach heaven but also to affirm their own strength, pride, and limitless capabilities. This is the story of the Tower of Babel, an engineering marvel and a profound lesson about arrogance and the limits humans cannot surpass. According to the book of Genesis, after the Great Flood, Noah's descendants gathered in the plain of Shinar, a region in ancient Mesopotamia. With the advanced technology of the era, they used durable baked bricks and bitumen as mortar to begin constructing a massive tower. This project aimed not only to showcase technical skill but also harbored a greater ambition: to establish humanity's fame and prevent their dispersal across the earth. They wanted to leave an eternal mark, a declaration that humans could reach great heights on their own without God's guidance. However, that ambition crossed the boundary God had set for humanity. Seeing the growing arrogance in human hearts, God decided to intervene. He confused their language, turning unity into chaos. Workers who once coordinated smoothly suddenly couldn't understand each other. One asked for a brick, but a colleague heard it as water. The commander gave orders, but no one grasped the meaning. The site, once a symbol of perfect coordination, became a place of confusion and helplessness. Unable to continue, the great project was abandoned, the unfinished tower standing as a reminder of failure. Once united, humanity now scattered across the world, forming distinct peoples with their own languages and cultures. Many scholars believe the story of the Tower of Babel may have been inspired by ziggurats, the stepped pyramid temples common in Mesopotamia. Most prominent among them is Atenananki, a ziggurat in ancient Babylon, referred to by the ancients as the house that links heaven and earth. This name evokes a striking similarity to the purpose of the Tower of Babel described in the Bible. Though no direct archaeological evidence confirms the Tower of Babel's existence, the resemblance between the biblical story and ziggurats is undeniable. These structures, with their massive scale and spiritual significance, could have inspired the tale of a tower symbolizing human ambition. Just about the failure of an architectural project, it. When humans place faith in their own strength, ignoring God's guidance, they may face division and failure. This lesson remains relevant in the modern world, where humanity relentlessly pursues grand goals, sometimes forgetting life's true meaning. The Tower of Babel reminds us that while talent and ambition can take us far, humility and faith are the foundations for lasting success. The Second Temple and the Journey of Rebirth. When King Solomon's temple was destroyed and the Jewish people were exiled to Babylon, all hope seemed to vanish. The temple, a sacred symbol of faith and national identity, was reduced to rubble, covered in the dust of time. The pain of loss overwhelmed many, making them think their connection with God was forever severed. But the story didn't end there. After 70 years in exile, a glimmer of hope emerged. Persian King Cyrus the Great issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to their homeland and order the temple's reconstruction. This marked the beginning of the Second Temple, a structure not just of stone but a living symbol of rebirth, restoration, and unwavering faith. Building the Second Temple was a journey filled with hardship. Compared to Solomon's magnificent temple, this new structure was much more modest. It lacked the radiant gold overlay, the sacred Ark of the Covenant, and couldn't replicate the opulence of the past. Elderly people who had witnessed the glory of the first temple couldn't hold back tears at the difference. In their hearts, the new building seemed but a faint shadow of former glory. Yet amid this disappointment, the prophet Haggai brought a powerful promise. He declared that the glory of this temple would surpass that of the former one. That prophecy, at the time, seemed hard to believe, but later history proved its astonishing truth. Centuries later, King Herod the Great, driven by ambition to leave an eternal legacy, decided to upgrade and expand the Second Temple. Under his direction, it was transformed into a wonder of the ancient world. Massive columns were erected, the temple courts were doubled in size, and walls were adorned with gleaming gold and pure white marble. Under Jerusalem's sun, the temple shone brilliantly, astonishing every visitor. It became the center of religious life, where people gathered to pray, offer sacrifices, and seek God's presence. It was in this temple that Jesus taught, spreading his powerful teachings. He once drove the merchants out of the temple courts, restoring its purity. He also gave a shocking prophecy that if the temple were destroyed, he would rebuild it in 3 days. These words weren't about stone walls, but about his own body, the true temple where God dwells in human hearts. But the fate of the Second Temple was tragic. In 70 CE, the Roman army besieged Jerusalem, setting fire to the temple. Molten gold seeped between the stones, causing Roman soldiers to dismantle it stone by stone. Whenever he ended, only the Wailing Wall remained, a fragment of a glorious past. Simultaneously a symbol of pain and undying hope. The story of the Second Temple is not just about a destroyed structure, but also evidence of the power of rebirth, showing that even in the darkest moments, God can bring light and restoration. Jesus' teachings further deepened the meaning of the temple. His presence is not limited by stone walls but can dwell in each person. This story reminds us that hope and faith can overcome all challenges, even seemingly insurmountable losses. Timeless lesson. Ark, the walls of Jericho, Solomon. Are not only architectural wonders but also profound stories of faith, obedience, pride, and redemption. Each structure carries a timeless message, challenging humans to reflect on their relationship with God and the world around them. These stories are not just about stone, wood, or gold, but about spiritual meaning and eternal lessons. Noah's Ark is a symbol of steadfast faith and patience. It teaches that even when the whole world turns away, faith in God can help overcome impossible challenges. The walls of Jericho remind us that no obstacle is too great when people place their trust in God's power. Their collapse demonstrates that faith can break through seemingly impenetrable limits. Solomon's temple, with its magnificent splendor, is an image of purity, where people feel the divine presence of God. The Tower of Babel, in contrast, is a warning about pride, showing that uncontrolled ambition can lead to division and failure. The Second Temple tells the story of restoration, with a light of hope emerging in the darkness of despair. Although these structures have been erased by time, their lessons live on. They challenge science, awaken faith, and invite each person to ask whether their heart is ready to become a dwelling place for God. But who once resided in those ancient temples? The answer lies within you. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit subscribe to the Top Secret channel beyond. Thank you for watching until the end, and see you again.